Imagine standing at Place du Châtelet right now. The fountain, the pigeons, two grand theatres facing each other across the square. Tourists eating crepes, the metro rumbling somewhere beneath your feet, and realizing that you are standing directly on top of a torture chamber. Not metaphorically, literally. Under this pavement, under the buses and the cafe chairs and the people photographing the Seine, was one of the most feared buildings in the history of Paris. And here's the part that genuinely unsettled me when I first looked into it. It didn't fall in a siege, it didn't burn in a revolution. Someone simply decided it was embarrassing, drew up some paperwork, and knocked it down. Before this walk is over, you'll understand exactly why even Parisians who lived a street away used to cross to the other side, and why the city eventually chose to forget this place ever existed. The Grand Châtelet. Let's go back. Right here, where you're standing, there was no open square. There was a fortress, squat stone, almost organically grown into the riverbank, chains across the water, guardsmen at the gate, the smell of the Seine mixing with something you didn't want to identify. It didn't just guard the bridge behind you, it owned this entire quarter. Fish markets, river trade, executions, the licensing of brothels, the city's entire mechanism of criminal justice, all of it ran through one building. Merchants paid fees to the Châtelet's lieutenants just to open a stall nearby. You couldn't move goods across this bridge without the fortress taking its cut, and there was one room inside specifically that the guards themselves reportedly refused to enter alone. I'll come back to that. Walk with me toward the Pont au Change, right there just behind you, the bridge with the cars and the grey river view. Ordinary now, but this was the choke point of medieval Paris. Nothing crossed the Seine here without the Châtelet's permission. And I mean nothing. Grain shipments, timber, wine. There's a darker entry in the ledgers too. Funeral processions were taxed. The dead were taxed to cross. Rabelais found this so grotesque he put it into Pantagruel. The Châtelet's extortion culture became literary satire, while the building was still fully operational, still collecting its fees, still very much open for business. And yet somehow the taxes weren't even the worst thing about it. Come back toward the square and look down at the pavement here. There's a bus stop now. A perfectly ordinary bus stop. Beneath it, by most historical accounts, were the oubliettes they called the pits. Cells cut below the waterline of the Seine, which flooded seasonally. Prisoners weren't simply held here, they were processed, interrogated, subjected to what the court records called the question, formal judicial torture, applied before a verdict to extract confession, and applied again before an execution to extract names. The same corridors held a common thief and a Huguenot minister and a disgraced nobleman, all moving through the same machine. And that room I mentioned, the one the guards avoided, was the question room, the official chamber where the preparatory question was administered. This isn't legend. Old prison administration records describe the rotation of personnel assigned to it. People burned out. They were reassigned. It was documented the way you document a difficult posting. And if you think that's the darkest layer of this building, walk with me a moment toward the riverside. The Châtelet also housed the office of the Lieutenant General de Police, before Paris had a police force. In any modern sense, this man ran everything, and he operated right here. He could issue a lettre de cachet, imprisonment without trial, without formal record, without appeal. Voltaire passed through the Châtelet's jurisdiction. So, briefly, did the Marquis de Sade. The building held the city's secrets the way a drain holds everything that passes through it. But here's where it gets strange. And honestly, when I first read this, I had to go back and read again. The Châtelet was also, culturally, glamorous. There was an institution directly adjacent to all of this that seems completely insane given what I've just described. Give me a moment. First, The lower level of the fortress served as Paris's public morgue. Bodies pulled from the Seine were laid out in what was called the bastion for public identification, and people came to look, not as morbid outsiders, but as regular Parisians performing a civic function. It was how you found a missing relative. Louis-Sébastien Mercier, writing his great portrait of Paris in the late 18th century, described it as a semi-regular urban habit, people stopping by the way you'd stop by a market. The Châtelet had normalized death as a public spectacle for so long that no one found it remarkable. And 20 meters from the morgue entrance, there was theatre. Street performers had clustered around this crossing for centuries because it was the busiest foot traffic point on the right bank. Small troupes, puppet shows, farces. An audience who had just walked past the prison gate would stop to laugh at a comedy. The fortress and the farce operating simultaneously, 20 steps apart. That adjacency wasn't irony to the people living it. It was just the texture of the city. Strangely, I find that the hardest detail to absorb, not the torture room, but the idea that a puppet show ran outside it, and everyone thought that was normal. Now stand still for a second and notice how open this square is. That openness is not original. The Châtelet was a narrowing. It compressed the streets around it, created a bottleneck, pulled the entire directional logic of the right bank toward itself. Medieval Paris oriented around this building the way a city orients around a cathedral or a market. Streets aimed at it. Trade orbited it. Removing it did not just change a building, it changed the gravitational map of the quarter. And someone decided to do exactly that. The official reason in 1802, under Napoleon's consulate, was sanitation. Unsanitary conditions, obsolete structure, blocking modernization of traffic flow. The paperwork was clean and practical, but the real reason was harder to say out loud. The revolution had made the Châtelet's name radioactive. It was synonymous with arbitrary royal imprisonment, with the Lettre de cachet, with everything the new France was supposed to have abolished. Demolishing it was reputation management carried out in stone and rubble. It wasn't progress. It was erasure of evidence. Then Haussmann came in the 1850s and rebuilt the square entirely, placing two grand theatres precisely where the fortress and the morgue had stood. One of the most deliberate, aesthetic replacements in Paris's urban history. Beautiful buildings on top of an unmarked grave. Come back to the fountain now. Evening light, the theatres lit up, the Seine moving quietly behind you. The Châtelet survived plague, survived the religious wars, survived repeated floods and fires, and the full arc of the monarchy. It was not destroyed by any of that. It was demolished by a government that found it embarrassing, its records scattered, its stones carted away. There is no ruin. There is no plaque marking the exact site of the gate. The square is beautiful precisely because it has been made to forget. The fountain in the center stands roughly where the main entrance once was. Every hour, thousands of people walk past it. The water runs, the gate is gone. And under the paving stones, if the river is running high enough, the old cells would still be wet.